All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dota Radio Morning Show. We are on with our guest of the hour. We've got IX Mike joining us. Mike, are you coming in loud and clear, buddy?
I hope so.
Yes, you are. Thank you so much for being here. I know you had to get up extra early to make it, and we do certainly appreciate it. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good. Everything's good.
Awesome. Glad to hear. So, right now, you are a free agent in the way of Dota. What are your plans as a pro player? Are you looking for a new team? Are you talking to any teams? Is there anything that we can hope to expect in terms of your professional career coming up soon?
Um, Not really. Right now, I just consider myself on break, and I'm still part of Team Liquid as far as the organization go. I am a free agent for joining any team, but
Hmm.
right now I just plan to focus on my own little projects for now and like IXDL and some like cosmetic stuff, and
Hmm.
that's about it for now.
I see. So, talk to us about IDXL a little bit. Are you involved with that project? Is that what you've been playing in to sort of stay sharp with your Dota prowess?
Um, I just do it from like a programming background.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just a little program I created for pickup games based on where you come from, but it's an in-house league where anyone can log on and join and play games together
Right.
at any point. And there's there's two elite leagues, such as the North American one and the European one, which just opened up. You can like read about those at neodota.com.
Hmm.
But basically, it's just an impromptu league where professional players can log on and play, and people can watch them if they want to.
Right.
And I program for it because I don't know, I like to.
So, are you like a computer programming graduate? Is programming just something that you've picked up on the side that you do for fun, or what's your programming background?
It's just a hobby. I'm going to school for computer science, but I'm not really that far along. It's mostly self-taught, and it's something I've done like while playing Dota,
Yeah.
but it's like taken away from my Dota time, and now I'm more interested in programming than playing Dota.
Yeah, I can empathize a little bit. I was a computer science major for my first year in undergrad before I switched to business, so I dabbled a little bit. Now I same sort of a thing. I do web development as more of a hobby than anything else, but I don't know, man. I couldn't picture myself sitting in a cubicle just writing code for a bank or some other huge business 40 hours a week to make the big bucks that programmers make. But
Yeah, me either.
yeah, it's rough, but it's cool. So how is the IXDL project going overall? Are you happy with it right now? Are there improvements you guys want to make? Do you have plans of where you want to take it in the future?
I think everything's really good right now. We have new players playing every day, and I try to like advertise it when I can. I know when like the pro players are playing, they announce on their Twitter and stuff, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, awesome.
But right now, this version was like created while I was like scrimming with Team Liquid, so it's kind of like half-assed. So I am creating a new one from scratch, but it'll be a while. But I do hope to have new features such as like automated tournaments, like Warcraft 3 style of things,
Oh, okay, that would be cool.
and like scrim finders, like a scrim organizer for professional teams, because right now they just like sit inside of a Skype call and hope for the best. And
Yeah,
I would like to like make that much better for everyone.
yeah. That system can very quickly get complicated from a programming standpoint. For those that are not familiar with IXDL and are listening to this and curious about how they can get involved, how they can play, where do you go to sign up? It's a vouch system, right? So you have to have someone who's already a part of it vouch for you that you're not a jerk or a douchebag to get in. Is that kind of the general way it works?
No,
No.
there are vouch leagues. IXDL in total is like a collection of leagues for every region, like
Okay.
North America, Europe, Australia, South America. And there's open and vouch leagues for every region. So if you just want to log on and play, you can do that. Every game is captain's mode.
Hmm.
Maybe some captain's draft, but very little. You just go to ixdeal.net, register your account, and download the program, and you're good to go.
Okay. Cool. Awesome. So, as a North American-based player, talk to us a little bit about your thoughts of the North American Dota scene versus EU versus China. How do you think the NA Dota scene is faring? And now with sort of the influx of MLG, we have more North American events, more cash up for grabs for teams that have at least 3 North American players. Do you think overall the North American scene is improving and will be on the same level as the EU versus China teams? Any thoughts about that kind of topic in general?
I think it's pretty good overall. Obviously, Europe has more events and more teams and more support,
Mm-hmm.
but MLG is a big step in for the future of North American Dota, especially with the 250,000 or something they pledged for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're
And
right. Cash has something to do with it. You know, you need that motivator for teams to be able to practice and play full time and really take their game to the next level. Did you happen to catch that MLG esports report last night?
no, I didn't.
No. Okay. All right. Cool. So coming up later today, Navi versus Alliance. Who do you have your rares on? Who do you think is going to be able to take that best of 3 series, or is it just a deadlock 50-50?
No, I think Navi is doing better right now. Alliance seems kind of a little bit weaker. That you can see that I forget which games they played, but I think they've lost some recently, and they struggled versus Liquid too. Liquid's pretty good, but I would expect it to go smoother for them, and it didn't. So
Yeah.
I think Navi will win this set.
And speaking of the current Liquid lineup, we've seen Liquid play Navi in a couple of series since 6.79 hit. What are your thoughts about the current Liquid lineup? I mean, they're looking pretty strong. They've been giving Navi a run for their money for sure.
Yeah, I think they're really good. In my past like 2 years of competitive Dota, we've only beaten Navi one time in a best of three as Complex Zero in Liquid, and they've done it twice already. So
Mm.
that's good for them. And I think Koivka is a really good addition to the team. I think he complements TC's style well and works really well with Bubba as well.
Yeah, yeah, they've been interesting to watch for sure. So 6.79. What are your thoughts overall? Do you like the patch? Do you not like the patch? Are you in favor of this kind of Ice Frog style of throwing the meta up in the air every year and a half?
I do like it. I think the game gets pretty stale after a while, and it's important to like just change shit for no reason, which I think is what he does. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah.
As far as individual changes, I think I don't have too much of an opinion. I think like Death Prophet's really broken.
She's pretty
I
good.
think
There's data to back that one up too. I think she has the highest win rate in pub games right now. She's
yeah, she
overtaken the
does.
Space Cow.
Strength hero offlaners I think are really good too because the way the offlanes are working right now, it starts like really close to the enemy tower, so they're really hard to like push out with normal supports
Hmm.
like Timbersaw and Clockwork, so they'll get a lot of levels
Yep.
for no reason.
Yep. We've certainly seen that. We've seen Clockwork, first bans at a much higher frequency than we did before 6.7. So I think you're definitely um, on point with that. Hippie, do you have anything you want to add here or ask Mr. IX Mike?
Well, I just wanted to, when we were talking IXDL, I mean, you said you think it's been a pretty good response. I've seen a lot of pro players streaming it late at night. I tend to kind of fall asleep watching Dota on my laptop because I kind of live and breathe this stuff. How do you think from the pro scene overall? Because I've seen Demon playing IXDL, I see Merlini playing IXDL once in a while. But overall in the pro scene, how many people have adopted this as like a really nice way of finding high level games, of finding streams for themselves?
I think they mostly because in Dota 1 there was always like in-house leagues available, like IHCS or EETL or whatever. I mean, there was always a new incarnation of in-house leagues, and I just trying to replace that for the pro players more so than actually like a place to scrim. Most of them take it are pretty relaxed about it and not trying to make it like some very serious game, but everyone can do what they want with it. And some pro players, like just hate it forever. Like shout out to Ali 2000, who just like wants to matchmake instead. But I mean, you get items in matchmaking, and you get to play with your friends, and you can make arguments about like the attitude being pretty not so good
Hmm.
at the the invite leagues because everyone's like pretty comfortable with each other and they like to flame each other and all that stuff. But some people also like it.
All right.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I do remember the glut of in-house leagues that we had in Dota 1, and it's definitely something that's just kind of lacking in Dota 2, and I feel like matchmaking is one of the things. Because we have a matchmaker, people don't need the in-house leagues as much, but I think a lot of people still like it. So, I mean, I enjoy watching the IXDL games. I like watching people playing. I mean, they're playing hard, but they're also playing for fun. So I think you got something great going here, and I appreciate that you put in the work for it.
Thanks.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll be excited to see the sort of 2.0 that you're talking about. If you can work in that kind of Warcraft 3 tournament system, that's one of those things that I remember Warcraft 3 vividly. I loved that client. That was one of my favorite online experiences of the way tournaments worked, matchmaking, the chat channels. And I've always wondered why more organizations haven't mimicked that kind of weekly tournaments with ease, where you just sign up and it does all that back-end stuff for you. So I think if you could, pull something even remotely similar to what they had in Warcraft 3, you could really take IDXL to the next level. So that's pretty exciting. Mike, that is about all I have in terms of questions. Do you have any shout-outs or comments or anything else you'd like to say here before we wrap the interview up?
Yeah. Shout out to my friends and all that, and shout out to Team Liquid sponsors, Shiny Things, Barracuda, Razor, and I can't remember the rest.
Need for Seat.
Need for Seat. Yeah, I'm sitting on their chair in Twitch. Thank you. It's been a while.
Do I keep saying IDXL? No,
Yes,
I
you
keep
do.
saying IXDL. It's IDXL. I'm sorry.
No, it's no.
the other way.
Which is right? My dyslexia is killing me here.
It's IXDL.
IXDL.
And you keep saying IDX.
All right, IXDL. Sorry about that. I can't do small characters, guys. Make sure you follow Liquid Mike on Twitter, LiquidIXMike88, and stay up to date with everything he's up to. Mike, we thank you for being here nice and early. We do really appreciate it. You're welcome to hang out with us for the duration here. We'll probably be on air for another 20 minutes. You're welcome to hang up. The choice is yours, my friend. But we do appreciate you coming on, and hope to see you again in the future, perhaps.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks. So with that, you know what, Hippie? Let's go ahead and talk some Pugna action. Are you ready to rock and roll with that front?
I'm always ready to rock and roll on that front.
All right, let's do it. Here you go, my friend. What do we got going on with Pugna here in 6.79?
All right, so Pugna got a few interesting changes. Decrepify was made both more offensive and defensive because the damage amp, obviously on allies, was reduced by 15%, so you're not making them quite as vulnerable to spell spam if you're trying to make them physical immune. And of course, the damage amp against enemies was increased by 10%, making it more potent in magic-focused lineups. A bigger change, in my opinion, than that was that Nether Ward is now, like a lot of other gadgets that we've been seeing, changed in this way. Nether Ward is a solid 3 hits to kill instead of having a certain amount of HP. So you can't just kind of have one hero with high damage just whack the ward once. You need to spend a little time focusing on it. And Nether Ward is a really, really powerful team fight ability, especially on low HP supports who have maybe some higher cost abilities. It makes it very dangerous to run someone like Alina. It makes it very dangerous to run a Lion. It can make, I mean, heroes like Enigma can be a little dangerous, especially because the ward deals the damage before the spell gets cast. So you can kill them without them actually getting any benefit of casting that spell if they don't notice the ward, if you hide it in the trees. There's a lot of really great things you can do with that. A change everyone was really looking at was the life drain restoring mana if you have full HP, which is good. I don't think it's really hugely significant. It's nice to solve some of Pugna's late game mana problems, especially with an Ags. If you're spamming out that life drain a lot, you will run out of mana eventually, but if you're that farmed, you probably have a decent amount of pool anyway. I really think the reason we're seeing Pugna so much more is because I mentioned the Necrobook changes. I mentioned how there are changes to other items that are kind of shifting us slowly towards a more push-focused meta. This seems to be a little bit where it's settling. These push lineups have been very popular over the last couple of days. We'll see if that sticks. But the big thing you're getting is that level 4 Nether Blast is 162.5 damage to towers. And that's not reduced. That's just a flat 160 damage, which means that even tier 2 towers only take 10 Nether Blasts to kill. It's an incredibly, incredibly potent sieging ability. You don't need to be particularly close because it's only 400 range, but it's also 400 radius. So you have an effective 800 range, 160 point nuke against a tower if you just kind of catch it with the edge. It's very good for focusing down waves because it's 325 damage to everything in the radius as well. And just the fact that you can take out those towers so effectively. Remember, hero damage is reduced against towers, and towers have a crap load of armor. They have even the weakest towers have, I believe it's 10 armor, maybe 12 armor. And so they're taking maybe 20 to 30 damage from your physical attacks early game. And Pugna's just blasting these things for 160, taking them down, giving you a ton of gold when you take them down, making it very, very easy to siege. So the more we get more like push-focused metas, the more heroes like Pugna, the more maybe heroes like Death Prophet, who Mike mentioned and who a lot of people think have settled kind of near the top, are going to become more popular.
Yep. No, I think you're absolutely right. Again, it's that kind of ripple effect of changes where now pushing is becoming a little bit more of a viable strategy, and Pugna synergizes with that very well, and then plus his additional buffs is kind of an anti-caster, as it may be. Just give him a whole arsenal of utility that isn't there with other heroes. So it's been interesting to see him worked in. And, you know, I should have pulled this up before we started. Maybe I can pull up Dota very quickly here. I'm curious about what is his win rate right now in competitive mode. Is he, like, kind of broken in terms of statistics, or is he just par for the course, you know, with a decent win rate? Let me see if I can pull it up right here. Control F, Pugna. There it is. Oh, I suck at that, dude. I should have done this ahead of time. It looks like his win rate is pretty normal, though. I don't think it's too crazy. I don't see him. Oh, there he is. No, wow, he is crazy. He's 11-5 right now in 16 games. All right, I lied. That's awesome. So Pugna, he's awesome. The data is there to back it up, Hippie. I'll pull it up here on stream. He's at the top of page 2. 11-5 with a 68% win. With a positive KDA as well. That's good news. Is Pugna, where do you see him in terms of ban pick potential? Is he like in that first picking group potential, or is he not that powerful?
If he's first picked, it's pretty obvious you're going to run a push strat, but if he's not picked in the first phase, it's reasonably likely, if it looks like you're forming a push strat, like maybe you get an early Enchantress, maybe you get something else that kind of gives away the ghost, maybe you get a Chen, it's reasonably likely he'll be banned out just to mitigate his power in somewhere in that second phase, especially because teams are really utilizing those mass necro books, utilizing the Pugna. When Pugna goes mid and gets some fast levels, he can just basically, again, similar to Death Prophet, if your enemy hero leaves the lane, the tower's dead. Yep. I mean, you have enough time to just blow it the heck up. It's a 5.5 second cooldown on Nether Blast, so it takes less than a minute to focus down a tier 1 tower with level 4 Nether Blast. It's kind of ridiculous, really.
It's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, that's just the viability of pushing, man. And also Crobulus. I mean, we haven't seen much Death Prophet action in competitive play. Right now, based on the Dota stats here on that same page, Death Prophet has been in 7 games and is right now 2-5. So she still has a lot of problems, but still pushing power is there. Man, that's a sad win rate for poor Crobulus. Always love to see Death Prophet action. So awesome. That is your bit of Where's My Meta today, segment from Hippie. And at this point, we're going to move into talking points as we start to wrap up the second portion of our third episode of the Dota Radio Morning Show. And we've got some good talking points today. So this idea came to me when I was watching the esports report from MLG last night. And it came when they talked about Battlefield 4. It's coming out on October 29th. Today is October 25th, so that's not too far away. And the soundbite that sort of irked me a little bit was that Battlefield 4 is going to be embracing esports like no other Battlefield has done before. And instantly I thought, well, doesn't that set the bar pretty low? Because I don't recall any other Battlefield game really catering to esports in any sort of significant fashion whatsoever. As I recall, Battlefield 3 was kind of a bust on every front. I mean, maybe you can help me out here, Hippie. Didn't Battlefield 3 come out not that long ago, and it was plagued with glitches and bugs, and it just kind of never really got off the ground? I remember the beta being terrible.
It was a couple years ago. I think it was when I was a senior in college, so it was a couple years back now.
I feel like it was a couple months ago. Oh god.
No, it's been a couple years. It was rolled out along with the launch of Origin and was used as one of the driving forces to try to really get people to get onto Origin. Yep. So that was, on the one hand, I mean, it was really good for getting Origin onto the really hardcore Battlefield fans, but it definitely turned some people off. I know I personally am not interested in installing Origin at all.
I was
So
bummed when I bought Sim City and had to install that crap.
yeah, I've been skipping a lot of games that I probably otherwise would have considered playing just because of Origin. I know that's kind of silly because I have Steam and they're not that different, but something just does that to me. And I don't know. I heard from the people I knew who played Battlefield 3, it was pretty good, but
Hmm.
I just don't think it had the install base of something like Call of Duty, of something like Counter-Strike.
Right. Right. So, anyhow, I guess to take away from that, my a little bit of analysis about Battlefield 3. I keep screwing that up. I don't know why I want to say Battle 3. Battlefield 3 was that it didn't cater to esports. So saying that like more than any game before is like, okay, so you're gonna start doing that. I mean, that's okay. It just sort of seemed like a weird soundbite that I wanted to pull out, and that got me thinking: is esports that kind of new kitsch phrase in video game marketing? You come up with a new title, and is that now becoming synonymous with, hey, we've got a spectator mode. We are now esports friendly. Come on, esports. Why don't you come in and play our game? Why don't you give it a go here on the battlefield? And that bothers me a little bit because I think that takes away from what esports is. And I don't think having a spectator mode or having some sort of a built-in crummy tournament section is what makes you an esport. And it's sort of an interesting topic to uncover. And there's that age-old debate of kind of Halo versus Call of Duty. Which one has a higher skill cap? You know, I guess you could throw in there Counter-Strike as well. Looking at the skill caps between them, are they all competitive games? And I think some people would argue that as long as you have people that will compete in your game for money, you have an esports scene. As long as there are people actively playing competitive Halo and there are tournaments where you can win cash, hence there are professional Dota players, or pardon me, Halo players, that there is a professional Halo esports scene. And I think there's some truth to that. The difference, though, comes in how is that scene brought to life. And some of it is that influx in cash. It's sort of the Riot versus Valve situation all over again, right? Riot is just pouring money into esports. For them, they have enough capital and enough liquid cash on hand that they can just do that. They can say, you know, we're just going to put $5 million into esports this year. We'll put $10 million in next year. No problem. Just a little bump in the balance sheet there. That's one way to do it, but it takes an absurd amount of resources that very few companies can pull off. The Valve model is a lot different. They have also put in a lot of money, so it's sort of similar in terms of they put in millions of dollars to get their scene booming. But they give that third-party access. There's a much more organic growth to the way why am I so stumbly today? The Dota scene has evolved. You know, Valve is very hands-off in terms of allowing third-party tournament organizers to do their own thing. That's been Valve's approach, and Riot is the complete opposite. And I think Halo sort of goes more towards that Riot stage. The issue, though, is Halo isn't backed by a large company like Riot that has a seemingly infinite amount of money just to throw into the competitive scene. So that takes me to my kind of next point here of do esports features translate to a competitive scene that's going to be successful? And Hippie, this is where you come in. I think Firefall is a point in case of a game that was sort of from its inception designed to be very esports friendly. A great spectator mode, competitive modes. From the get-go, the intention of supporting esports and sort of hit the ground running right out the gate. And where's Firefall right now? They launched that first tournament and it didn't really go the way they had hoped. So now Red 5 is stepping back and they're reevaluating the game to kind of relaunch a little bit. I think at least that's how I understand it. What's your insight here? I mean, do esports features translate to success for a new title?
I'm gonna just kind of repeat something I just said in chat, both for the VOD viewers and for people who aren't reading chat. If you focus so much on making, oh, this is really balanced, you know, we're gonna have action, we're gonna have a good spectator mode, but the game isn't actually all that fun to play, you're not gonna have a good scene. I mean, Shoot Mania is really, really an excellent example of this, alongside Firefall to an extent. And I can go more into that in a sec. But Shoot Mania was built to be the next big esports FPS title. It's like, oh man, we're gonna be the next Quake 3. We remember when Quake 3 was the top dog, and we're going to be amazing just like that. Mm-hmm. And they made this super, super balanced game. They made it all for competition. And it immediately died because it wasn't any fun to play. And nobody, I mean, it starts out, I mean, even like professional baseball players, or professional football players, professional anything, professional Dota players, they start out because it's so much fun. Right. They don't go into it thinking, I'm going to be a pro no matter how much I hate this, because it's what I want to do. And I want to do it because I hate myself. Nobody thinks like that, man. We play games because they're games. They're fun.
Yeah.
We have a good time. And that was one of the things that happened to Firefall, is they got so concerned they're sitting there like, oh man, we gotta make this super balanced PvP, super balanced esports. That they took what was an incredibly fun PvP game, man. I was in beta from like maybe a month after start of beta, and it
Yeah.
was very different from where it is today. And I had a blast. And they slowly started changing things like, oh, we're going to change this class to this. Okay, I mean, I guess I can see that. Oh, we're going to change this. We're going to change this. We're going to change this. And finally, we get to the point where I'm sitting there. I'm casting a game and I'm having some fun with it. It's not a game I really dislike, but the magic of that initial beta where I was just in love and I couldn't imagine a more fun game to play. And I was like sitting there trying to, every time beta would go live for, the 5 hour beta period, I'd be there the second it went live and I'd be there until the servers went down, was gone. And
Yeah.
it comes down to, if there's not enough fun in there, no one's gonna practice it. And now Firefall is at the point where they've removed their PvP from the game because they say, all right, it's literally not fun. No one's playing it. We're taking it out. We'll put it back in when it's good again.
Yeah.
And there were some other stumbles along the way. They added the spectator mode. Then they changed some features and added some really important stuff, and they never updated the spectator mode with it. And so we're sitting there without all the information. They added like these charge up ultimate abilities, and we never got a spectator charge bar, so we had no idea if they were available or not. We just had to kind of guesstimate,
Yeah.
and we got pretty good at that, believe me. But it still was something that was just lacking.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, but it does go to show you that just because you say we're gonna do esports, we're gonna have great spectator modes, we're gonna have etc., that you're going to end up some sort of great esports game and you dump a ton of money into it. It's like, oh man, we're going to run these great tournaments. And the tournaments, they were well organized. It was a reputable organization. They were run by ESL, but nobody wanted to play.
Yeah. It's true. It's a problem. And I think you're exactly right on the money where there needs to be that level of fun, which is exactly, I introduced a few people to Firefall and right away they were like, this is too hard. I'm just going to go play League. I'm not having any fun. So right off the gate, there needs to be that, I just enjoy playing this game, and that's where that kind of esports thing evolves forward. And I think one of the other things that folks don't recognize is the popular esports titles. They've been here for a long time. Dota's been a game for over a decade. StarCraft, over a decade. In my mind, they are the two biggest esports titles, and they have been here forever. Part of the reason League of Legends is so big is because it's new-ish, 3-4 years since it's been out. But it's based off of Dota, which has been around much longer than that. So that general format has still been here for a long time. It's a hard industry just to come into and say, you know what, we want to break into esports. Let's make it happen, because you need that big fan base. You need the viewers. You need the competitive players for your scene to be vibrant. And that's one of the issues that esports has. Games rotate very quickly. We always like to compare ourselves to real sports. But when was the last time football changed significantly? Right? I mean, yeah, they tweak the rules, they modify things as needed. They do have patch balances, if you will, but the fundamental game stays the same. The shape of the football doesn't change.
When was the last time we got football 6.79?
Right.
With, huge, massive changes.
Exactly. So we're stuck in this arena where things change very, very rapidly, and that can be hard to deal with. And so the last question I want to pose here with our talking points, is there a formula for success in esports? Or is it more just a matter of serendipity? I love any situation when I can use serendipity in a sentence. It's one of my favorite words. And I think it fits here perfectly. And I think there's more truth to the latter of that statement in terms of you can't really predict how to be a successful company in esports. I think the companies and games that are really successful have come a really long way. And from their inception, they weren't planned around it. I mean, just having a spectator mode being esports friendly isn't enough. Because think about how popular Dota was when there was no esports friendliness. Spectator mode sucked. You had to do all this stuff manually. That we now kind of take for granted as totally automated, worked into the client and all those features. I mean, even Dota TV is a huge advance in that front, but that's not what made Dota an esport. That just helped grow a scene that was already booming. So it's sort of an interesting topic to think about, and for future game developers trying to break into esports, I'm glad. I always want to see esports grow on every front. First-person shooters, games not interested in, but don't pretend that you're an esports title just because you have a spectator mode. That doesn't make you an esports game. I appreciate the effort, but there's just a difference in vernacular there that bothers me just a little bit. You have to recognize there's a huge dichotomy between Dota and StarCraft that have been growing their competitive scenes for literally a decade, and a new company that's been developing for maybe a year, there's just a huge difference between those two, and something I wanted to point out. Hippie, I'll give you the last thought on this. We're going to wrap up pretty quickly here. I know Navi versus Alliance is starting. If it hasn't started yet, it's starting in just a few minutes, so we do want to wrap up for you guys to check it out, and we do want to mention that is the big match coming up here. We play 1700 CET, Navi versus Alliance, then at 1800, Sigma International, aka Quantic, going to be playing Dignitas in a best of 3 in the Natalic tournament. So you'll want to head over to We Play right after we wrap up here. Hippie, thoughts about Serendipity?
I think there are a few things that you need. The game needs to be fun to play, fun to watch. It needs to have a functioning spectator mode. Doesn't need to be perfect. You can improve on it. And I think one of the big things that makes Dota and League so much more popular right now as esports than pretty much everything else is that you need to be able to watch the high-level games and really see different tactical thinking and things you can adapt, rather than just if you're watching high-level Counter-Strike, which I find fun, but not everybody will, because really the difference between me and your average high-level Counter-Strike player is that they have better Twitch aim than I do. There's not a whole lot of decision-making differences between me and them. It's just, I can't aim like they can, and I admit that. Whereas in Dota, I can look at things, every day I see something new and interesting in Dota, and I consider myself a connoisseur of Dota mechanics and tactics and all sorts of things. I'm certainly not the absolute best. You'd have to talk to some pro players to get really top-level analysis, but I think I'm up there. And I can learn new things every day from these players.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely on the money with that, my friend. That old adage of easy to learn, impossible to master, I think that is one of the core mechanics of the MOBA genre in general that makes it so appealing to folks. It is sort of hard to learn, but impossible to master. I mean, there's just so much variation between all the heroes, all the spells, all the items, the different laning positions, the choices you make in-game, timings, all that kind of stuff. It's just an almost insurmountable amount of information, which is what keeps people coming back. That, like you said, every day I can learn something new, even as a high-level individual that sort of prides oneself on being competent in the Dota community. So awesome. Well, guys, we didn't have Monolith with us today. Again, I think there was some technical issue. I wish I had my phone on me here, but he got DC'd from everything right as we started. So tweet at him, though, at Monolith Dota. He is our guy that sets up the guests, so if there's someone interesting you'd like to see on the show, feel free to tweet it at him, and he will do his best to accommodate your requests there. Of course, at Hippie Casting is our analysis guy. Anything you want to hear about in terms of analytics, game mechanics, all that stuff, tweet at him at Hippie Casting. And I am at Zyori TV, and of course the Dota Radio official Twitter is at the Dota Radio. Remember, folks, you can always email into the morning show at dotaradio.com. Feel free to comment on anything, questions, comments, concerns, feedback. We'd love to hear from each and every one of you. Until next time, though, guys, that does wrap up our show for today. We will be back on Monday, October 28th at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please tell your friends about the Dota Radio Morning Show. We're excited. This was our first week to premiere it, and we're pretty pumped about the content we've been able to put out so far. It is on iTunes. Once again, make sure you do subscribe. That's something a lot of people are looking forward to. I will drop the link in chat once again, but here it is on iTunes. If you go into iTunes and just search Dota Radio Morning Show, it should pop up. So until next time, guys, be kind to yourselves and be kind to each other. We'll see you on Monday, the 28th.